Hi everyone. Today I am going to explain you the rest 2 section of metallurgy, that is the 7C and 7D. In the section 7C, today we will learn about extraction of aluminium by 3 different methods, that is Bayer's process, Hall-Héroult process and Hoops process. Extraction of aluminium is done by taking the raw material from the earth crust. And as you know, what is the raw material of the earth from the earth crust? That is what? Bauxite. Bauxite is one of the main ore what we can get it from there. So, extraction of aluminium by Bayer's process. In your textbook, you can go through this method, which is given in your textbook. Bayer's process is nothing but the first process where we can do the concentration of ore or purification of ore. That is conversion of bauxite into alumina. What I am explaining, try to understand. We are just converting the raw ore, that is bauxite, into alumina, not into pure alumina. So, Bayer's process is having 3 different steps. Step number 1, whatever the bauxite you get it from the earth crust, that you are going to add with NaOH, that is sodium hydroxide. This method is called as leaching, one of the concentration method we learned in the last section, and temperature maintained 140 to 150 degrees Celsius. The products what will get, that is sodium metaaluminate plus water. This is step number 1. Then step number 2, this sodium metaaluminate we are going to add with water. Temperature maintained here is 50 degrees. That is 50 degrees Celsius in the sense we have to cool it, because before the temperature maintained is 140 to 150. Now we are having 50. So the products what we get, that is sodium hydroxide and aluminum hydroxide as a precipitate, and this precipitate is filtered. So this is the step number 2. I hope you understood. Now moving on to the step number 3, aluminum hydroxide is filtered, washed, dried and ignited. Ignited in the sense we are going to heat it to 1000 degrees Celsius. Then we'll get the product as alumina, or even we can call it as aluminum oxide with water. This is the last product of Bayer's process. Here we are not getting pure aluminium. To get pure aluminium, we have to move on to the next process. The next process, as I said, that is Hall-Héroult process. But some difficulties are there. What are those difficulties? One by one, I'll explain. Check. Aluminium has to go through electrolytic reduction, but reduction has to be done only in molten state. Molten state in the sense we have to melt aluminium. Aluminium melts at 2050 degrees Celsius. But one problem is there. When aluminium melts at this temperature, even aluminium vaporizes at this temperature. So to remove this difficulty, what we have to do? We made an electrolytic mixture of 3 different compounds, as you can see here. One is cryolite, 60% we took. Second one is alumina, 20% we took. And third one is fluorspar, that is 20%. Then we made 100% of electrolytic mixture. As you can go through in your textbook, here it is given electrolytic reduction of fused alumina, electrolyte we use, and temperature. Later on the temperature maintained is 950 degrees Celsius. Before, how much temperature for this one it is coming? That is 2050 degrees Celsius. Now the temperature is reduced to, that is 950 degrees Celsius by electrical heating. And how much voltage we have to use? 5 to 6 volt. That is a low voltage is used to avoid decomposition of molten cryolite. I hope you got this point. Now we'll move on to the next point. What is the next point? Here in the diagram, how we do this electrolytic reduction, it is given. Check first. Here also anode and cathode are there. It is an electrolytic cell, as you can see here, and carbon lining is there at the bottom. This carbon lining acts as cathode. And then we are having graphite anodes hanged here. Yes. And then almost all you have an idea by this time about the electrolyte what we use. Once again, I'll go through this. Check. What is the electrolyte you use? Cryolite, fluorspar and aluminum. These are the respective ions which will come out of that. Now, on passing the current from this electrolyte is having these many ions, and from these ions aluminum starts melting towards where? That is cathode, this carbon lining. And here one tap we fixed in this, that is tap hole for aluminum. So once you start the current in this electrolytic cell, aluminum melts and deposited towards the cathode, and from there molten aluminum is collected. Yes, this is the second process what I explained you, that is Hall-Héroult process, reduction of fused alumina. Even we can say that electrolytic reduction of fused alumina. Then the third process, that is Hoops process. In the Hall-Héroult process, whatever the aluminum we got, again we can say that it is not 100% pure. So what we should do? We have to go for the third process, that is what? Refining of aluminum. As they said that here the star mark is there, it is not there in your syllabus, but for your information you should go through this. It is Hoops electrolytic process. What we learn in Hoops electrolytic process? I'll go through this. Check. Here is the diagram what it is given in your textbook. We are having 3 different layers in this. It is also a method of electrolysis only. But here how many? 3 different layers. Yes, here it is given. Check. Molten impure aluminum forms the bottom layer. The bottom layer of carbon lining serves as anode. Pure molten aluminum with carbon electrode serves as cathode, that is top layer, and middle layer consisting of mixture of fluorides of sodium, barium and aluminum. Once again, go through this. This electrolytic cell is having carbon lining. This time, this carbon lining at the bottom acts as anode. And you are having graphite rods. These graphite rods here in the Hoops process acts as cathode. Now we are having 3 different layers in this. The bottom layer, see from where you are dropping this molten aluminum. Yes, molten as well as impure aluminum. And the middle layer, fluorides are there, and fluorides of what? Sodium, barium and aluminum. And the topmost layer is of pure molten aluminum. Then when you pass the electric current from this, what happens? Whatever in the middle layer aluminum is there, it is extracted by this cathode, that is graphite rods. I hope you understand. It moves to the first layer. And to maintain the equilibrium, impure aluminum from this molten state moves upside. And these graphite rods has to be removed time to time. Why these has to be removed time to time? Because this process will go on. You are adding the molten impure aluminum from here, and fluorides pass the pure aluminum to the upper layer, and cathode extract those aluminum ions. So this is the commercial method which we use in the factories. I hope you got this one. And here flowchart is given. Flowchart for extraction of aluminum. We extract aluminum from the ore, that is bauxite, and then these are the process, that is Bayer's method, as I explained you, step number 1, step number 2 and step number 3. Later on, once we get aluminum oxide, we move on to electrolytic reduction, that is Hall-Héroult process. in this cathode and anode, and at cathode you will get aluminum, but this is not pure aluminum as I said. And then we move on to, that is purification by electrolysis, that is by Hoops process. Here whatever the aluminum you are going to get, it is 99.9% pure aluminum. I hope you got this section, that is 7C. Now let me take you to the next section, that is 7D, that is alloys. First of all, what is the definition of alloys? An alloy is a homogeneous mixture of two or more metals or of one or more metals with certain non-metallic elements. Check here. The properties of alloys are often greatly different from those of the components. Of course, we know about alloys, how we are making, as well as in this section more and more in detail about the alloys will go through this. Here, an alloy melting in the range of about 51 degrees Celsius to 260 degrees Celsius usually contains bismuth, lead, tin, etc. These alloys are called as fusible alloys. Fusible in the sense they can mix with one another. And here one more important point they give, that is amalgam as well as dental amalgam. A mixture or an alloy of mercury with a number of metals or alloys such as sodium, zinc, gold and silver, as well as with some non-metals is known as amalgam. It's a mixture. So dental amalgam, mixture of mercury and a silver tin amalgam. So mercury does not form an amalgam with iron, and hence mercury is commonly stored in iron bottles. So first of all, about this point I would like to explain in general. Amalgam is nothing but a mixture. Try to get this point. A mixture of what? A mixture of other metals like silver, gold, zinc, sodium with mercury itself. And what is dental amalgam? Dental amalgam in the sense to fill the cavities which happens in your teeth, we are using an alloy. That alloy we call it as dental amalgam. You might have seen some people are having teeth made up of gold, silver or any other mixture. That is not pure gold or pure silver. That is the mixture called as dental amalgam. Yes. Now, next one, purpose of making alloys. In brief, I will go through this one. Check. Alloys are made to change the property of their major constituents to achieve specific objectives. What are the objectives? First, strength of iron is increased by making steel. It doesn't mean that iron is not strong. Iron is strong, but it is having a drawback. What is the drawback? Iron can rust easily when it comes in contact with atmosphere. To avoid that, what we made? Steel. Brass, stronger than the components of copper and zinc. Copper and zinc are stronger, but to get more stronger element than that, we made an alloy brass. Aluminium, bronze looks like gold. Yes, for decorative materials we are using this. Then nichrome, an alloy of nickel, iron and chromium, more resistant to electricity. More resistance, it's an non-electric. So now carbaloy, an alloy of tungsten, carbon and cobalt, hard as a diamond. You know that only natural substance which is hardest, that is diamond, and artificial substance as hard as diamond is carbaloy. Then bell metal is more sonorous than copper and tin. And then alinco, alloy containing aluminum, nickel and cobalt, can lift 60 times its own mass. Yes, that is alinco. Then solder, you might have seen some of the solder machines which are used to fix the wires on the motherboard of some of the electronic objects. Here that is made up of lead and tin. That is an alloy and it melts at 118 degrees Celsius for sorting purpose. Then type metals, alloy of lead and tin as well as antimony, low melting point and can easily be cast. it is used for printing purpose. Whatever the printing machines are there this type metal is used. And sodium amalgam is less reactive than sodium, and it is liquid alloy at room temperature. So these are the purposes why we are making the alloys. Yes, so you can go through this. Then reasons for alloy. What are the reasons? Depending upon the purpose for which the particular alloy is used. Then we'll go through one by one. Check first. To modify appearance and color. Example, aluminum bronze resembles gold as it is bright yellow. Yes. So to make the artificial gold ornaments, we are using this aluminum bronze. Yes. So next one, to modify chemical activity, sodium amalgam, because as you know, sodium is the most reactive element. To reduce its reactivity, we are using this alloy. And then third, to modify casting ability, type metals, as I told you, we are using in the printing machines. Type metal is a mixture of lead, tin as well as Sb. Expands on solidification as it is easily cast. Then the fourth one, to lower the melting point. Solder, mixture of lead and tin melts at 180, which lowers the melting point of lead and tin. And to increase the hardness as well as tensile strength, brass is there as well as duralumin is there. I hope you know the maximum use of this duralumin, that is in the aircraft center. Then to increase the resistance to electricity, nichrome is there. Yes. Then what is the method of making the alloys? One is by fusing and second one is by compressing. By fusing, brass is made by melting zinc and copper, that is fusing method. By compressing, wood metal alloy of lead, tin, bismuth and cadmium powder is a fusible alloy. This alloy is used in automatic sprinklers, which provides a spray of water to prevent fires from spreading. That is, one by compressing we use an alloy and another by fusing we use the method of making the alloys. Yes. So then alloys as a solid solutions. Alloys can be considered as solid solutions in which metal with high concentration is a solvent and other metals are solute. For example, brass is a solid of zinc in copper, that is zinc is solute and copper is a solvent. It is just for your information. Then we'll move on to the last point of this section, that is common alloys, their compositions, properties and uses. One table is given to you in your textbook. You just go through the principal metal, the alloy's name and composition. And here mainly you go through whatever the alloy's name are given in the bold letters. That is important for the examination purpose. Yes. So what are the points you have to refer from this? Once again I'll repeat. Check. Aluminium, alloy's name, duralumin. Composition, aluminium 95%, copper 4%, magnesium 0.5 and manganese 0.5. These properties are for your information. Yes. So main points as I explained once again. Next I'll take example. Iron, stainless steel. In the bold letters it is given. Then what is the composition? Iron 73%, chromium 18%, nickel 8% and carbon 1%. Then the third one, zinc. Two are there. One is brass and one is bronze in the bold letters. Brass, copper 70 and zinc 40. Bronze, copper 80, tin 18 and zinc 2%. And the last one, that is lead, solder or fuse metal, lead and tin 50% we use it. I hope you understood this method of making the preparation of this table. Yes. So here we complete section 7C as well as 7D. In the upcoming video, I will give you the homework from the exercises of 7A, B, C and D. Kindly go through that. Thank you.